Hello everyone. I'm really excited to share this new project that I've been working on over the past few weeks as I've gotten super into poker, and hopefully you guys can find it useful. What it is basically a way to memorize your pre-flop ranges and a few trainers to help you do so. First things first, this is a open source project, completely free, and it's actually inspired by the Texas Solver as a new sort of open source poker software. I know there's plenty of closed source costly pre-flop trainers, but I think this one is nice as it lets you do any custom spot. So GTO Wizard doesn't let you do any custom spot, and it's completely free, right? And it's available for Mac, Linux, Windows, whatever system you have. Um, it's fully available. So for example, here I've created like a simple under the gun range that we can save here as like a test range, for example. So slash under the gun slash test.text, let's say, and we can save this range. And I actually have preloaded some ranges here. So for example, here's the under the gun open range, and so we're mixing sixes and Jack 9 suited, Queen Jack off, pretty reasonable stuff. And then we can also have some stuff like what happens when we get 3-bet by the button from under the gun. And you can see we have a mixed strategy here where we're mixing calling and raising. And what we can actually consider is that when we use the hand trainer, which we'll look at a little bit down, we can make sure that this spot only depends on hands that we would already have opened from under the gun. So it's kind of a way to simplify, and we can basically make any range depend on any subset range when we're going to train, which is kind of a nice simplification. So yeah, here's a simple range trainer, percentages of raising and folding, and then the total is just raising plus calling. And so that's kind of a little intro. So now let's look at, for example, some charts. And so remember we saw that range that we could actually train and do that. So now what happens when we want to test what we know? So for example, let's say that we are raising raising all these hands here, and then we are calling, let's say these hands here. For example, when we're getting 3-bet from the button, I know this is incorrect, but we can check it, and we can see anywhere with the red square we were actually incorrect. So clearly we didn't do quite too well in this spot, but this is kind of a way to memorize our ranges from a chart perspective. And so there's sort of a great way to start building your knowledge of rangings, right? So we can say, okay, now we know to play sixes plus, right? For example, we can actually, we can see the solution from sixes plus. We actually have a mixed strategy and so on and so forth. So again, this is completely custom. You can use the range builder to build out your custom ranges, and then the chart trainer to sort of practice, and we can say, okay, now we're 0 for 1. And of course, we can do any subset of charts. So if we also want to include the small blind, now, for example, okay, our next one is the small blind, and it's just going to choose randomly between the two for a while. So that's kind of our first feature, is that we can do a chart trainer. And then the next thing is we can actually do a hand trainer. So here I've added all of the under the gun spots that we kind of worked on. And we can see, okay, for under the gun jamming, we have kings here. I think it's pretty reasonable that we're going to jam. But in this case, let's see what happens when we hit fold. Oh, okay, we can see that we were incorrect, and it actually tells us what we should have done based on the chart that we had. And so we can do this all, and okay, here's a nice spot. So we can see that Jack 10 we're mixing between calling and folding, but in this case our randomizer was 82, so it was above 50, meaning we should have been calling. So it actually can let us train with the randomizer as well and take that into account when we're training these great hands. So this is kind of a very simple spot, a simple way to actually map what we're learning in these charts to actual hands in front of you, which I think is kind of a better way to connect yourself with this trainer. So pretty nice starting out. And then we can see that actually while we've been working on this hand trainer, let's say for example, we're actually creating a report of how we're doing. So we just hit the refresh. We can see that we played 8 hands, and we got 4 of them correct. So we folded every time, so 4 of them were folds. And we can see that we got 3 of them wrong. And we can look at it at each spot. So for example, jam, okay, remember we got those kings wrong, but we were correctly folding ace-5 suited, right? And so I actually have generated kind of a demo here for us to look at. And if we just hit refresh, we can see that I've generated 750 hands from a bunch of spots. So let's look at the under the gun open. We can see, wow, okay, this is all of the hands that we played. Anything in red or darker, we're not playing well. So for example, we're playing all of these hands incorrectly, but here we're playing ace 5 suited correctly. Almost 100% of the time, and then ace 4 suited probably about 50% of the time we're correct, 50% of the time we're incorrect based on our charts. And so this is just a general total. We can also look at how many times did we raise correctly. So in this case we see, okay, we raised correctly with these hands up here, but we're incorrectly raising with a bunch of junk, right, which we shouldn't be opening from under the gun. Additionally, we can see the same things for calling and folding. So if we just go under one of the call columns and double click, we can see, okay, we're incorrectly doing everything for call because there's no call from an under the gun open. But if we scroll down and say, okay, let's look at 3-bets, we can see, oh, okay, we're calling some correctly. Also, we can see that this subset only considers under the gun open ranges because of this testing hands to include. We made it depend on under the gun open. So we see that it's we're testing on a smaller range of hands, which is really, really nice. Same thing we can see for folding. Exactly the same. We can see, okay, we're folding aces, which we never should be, but it's just an example for us to kind of visualize these reports as we're training, so we can see, okay, wait, I'm raising Jack 9 suited way too much. Now I know when I'm playing to not make that mistake. So yeah, this is kind of a little project that I'm working on, and hopefully it's useful for you guys, and thank you for listening to this quick little demo.